Can the god of thunder truly build a heaven on earth if it means walking over the bodies of his oldest friends? And does the king of hell's kitchen realize that wearing a crown is far deadlier than wearing a mask? This is the Ordered Omnibus, where we intend to find out. Greetings, my Wednesday warriors, and welcome back to the Ordered Omnibus, where we are meticulously cataloging the history of the Marvel Universe, one issue at a time. Today we're cracking open the second archive of March 2004, and the stakes have never been higher. We're looking at a timeline where Thor's rule reaches an absolute breaking point, leading to a confrontation with Steve Rogers that will shake the foundation of the Avengers. And we also have one of the most famous and heartbreaking Ultimate X stories ever told. But the tragedy doesn't stop there. We're diving into spectacular Spider-Man to witness the desperate psychological gamble that could cost Peter his identity. We also have the explosive finale of the home base saga in The Incredible Hulk, Tony Stark fighting for his political life in the Iron Man, and Matt Murdock facing a Yakuza army in the Daredevil. From the cosmic circus of Captain Marvel to the reality-hopping danger of the Exiles, this batch of issues is absolutely essential for understanding the darker, grittier tone of the mid-2000s. But before we flip that first folio, I need you to help fuel the fandom. So please finesse that follow button to feed the fire, form a fellowship in the forums to focus on the feedback, forward that footage to your friends so they can finally find that frequency, and flick the bell to fix your focus on the future. Captain Marvel, Volume 5, Issue 18. We kick off with Genis-Vell spiraling through a void stitched from his own broken memories, unsure if he's a person or a prototype waiting to be installed. And suddenly he's yanked out of the darkness and dropped into a cosmic big tent in end space, where a glitter-drenched ringmaster introduces him as the late great Captain Marvel. The circus becomes a psychological gauntlet, firing him from a cannon into a mound of symbolic elephant dung meant to represent his rebirth? But before he can decide if the metaphor is insulting or accurate, Phyla-Vell storms in swinging chairs and calling him out for chasing ideals his personality can't carry. And that's when Eros and Elysium arrive to escalate the circus into a full-scale intervention, explaining that Endspace is the only arena capable of containing someone with Genis' power and instability. Elysium reveals the reality here. When Genis helped Entropy rebuild the universe, he replaced his old self with an idealized version, tearing small rips in space that look like madness, but were actually temporal misfires. Genis tries to flex with the calm of being a mad god, but Eros shuts him down cold, reminding them he grew up around a real one. He tells Genis he's not divine, just a letdown hiding behind theatrics to dodge responsibility. Genis-Vell finally confronts the truth that his rescue of his mother never happened in this universe. He can't control the cosmos no matter how hard he tries to force meaning into it. He makes a quiet vow to help those who ask rather than rule those who do not, accepting that Rick Jones must serve as his conscience if he wants to stay grounded. The Titans watch as Genis steps out of the circus with a steadier purpose, understanding that each cosmic powerhouse needs a moral anchor if he wants to avoid being crushed by the weight of his own power. Oh my gosh, that was certainly a masterclass in patience, wasn't it? But I'm not sure the juice was worth the squeeze on this one. Incredible Hulk, Volume 3, Issue 65. We kick off with Doc Samson, Betty Ross, and Sandra Verduga dropping into home base expecting a fight, only to find the Hulk has already turned the place into modern art. It's total wreckage. Sandra bolts off to find her son, Ricky, but the structural integrity is gone and the whole place starts coming down around them. Betty manages to shove her clear, but the collapse separates them from Samson. They scramble through the debris, finding a flashlight and, terrifyingly, what looks like Ricky's hand sticking out of some rubble. Meanwhile, back at the diner, Nadia is sweeping up the dead Krill when Bruce Banner stumbles in, claiming he hasn't seen the others. But right away, something feels off. Sandra digs out what she thinks is her son, only to find another robotic copy. And that's when the nightmare steps out. The mastermind behind home base, sitting in a wheelchair, is enjoying every second of their panic. He shows them rows of biotanks full of cloned bodies, bragging that a sliver of DNA is all he needs to make perfect copies, including Sandra herself. He offers a trade, the Krill carrying the Hulk's blood in exchange for the real Ricky. And back at the diner, Bruce drops the act, explaining that he wants the Hulk blood to build an army before forcing a kiss on Nadia. The mask is slipping fast. And Sandra agrees to the deal, but Betty has had enough and opens fire. He barely slows the mastermind down and he unleashes the krill until Doc Samson triggers the sprinklers and fries the swarm. Leonard shoots the mastermind's head, revealing it's just a TV screen, and the real villain warns they've got minutes before the nuclear warhead goes off. Sandra runs for Ricky, forcing Samson and Betty to flee for the chopper. At the diner, Nadia realizes this isn't Bruce at all. It's a clone. And right on cue, the real Hulk tears through the wall, grabs his double, and crushes him like wet cardboard. The issue closes with Sandra finally finding Ricky, but Agent Q7 blocks their escape. Outside, Samson tries to go back for them, but Betty knocks him out and drags him to the chopper. As Nadia escapes the clone and Hulk stands over the wreckage, home base detonates behind them, a nuclear fireball swallowing the facility with Sandra and Ricky still inside. Or at least that's how it looks. Iron Man, Volume 3, Issue 76. We open right in the Senate chamber and Tony Stark is already having a bad day. Rumiko calls him up, no theatrics, no build-up, just dumps him flat out before he can even process it. So he's sitting there emotionally gutted while a room full of senators are sharpening their knives. The hearing kicks off and they immediately drag up Armor Wars and the old bodyguard lie. They want to know why he was patching holes faster than the world could poke them. Tony hits back with the surgical Stark logic. He didn't want soldiers cooking inside of tech they weren't trained for. He wasn't trying to make a war highlight reel, he was trying to make it less barbaric. Meanwhile, the rest of the defense world is getting messy. You've got Oscorp Kestrel drones out in a range trying to flex for the brass until one just goes dark. No ping, no trail, nothing. All the Pentagon suits are sweating over the footage of Iron Man trying to reverse engineer gear that keeps outrunning them. But the real shady stuff is happening at Edgewood Arsenal. Commander Rayborn gets pulled into a quiet side door operation where they got early Iron Man suits. Actual Iron Man suits, rebuilt from wreckage, standing tall again. Birch's people have cracked the patents and revived the hardware. They aren't saying it out loud, but the subtext is screaming. They're gearing up to run Iron Man playbook without Tony. And back in the chamber, Senator Zimmers decides it's time to eat. He paints Tony as a technocrat with a gravity well for an ego. A guy who thinks he's the smartest voice in every room. Tony pushes back, reminding them that he's put the country first for years as Iron Man without asking for a dime. But the vibe has already been shifted. The vote gets fast-tracked, the tally comes in tight, and then Zimmer drops the final no like he's closing the file he never cared about in the first place. The no's have it. Spectacular Spider-Man, Volume 2, Issue 9. Fellow fanatics, as the sun creeps up on Saturday morning, Spider-Man swings back to his roof and finds Big John Anderson catching some Z's. When John finally drags himself awake, Spidey presses him immediately on whether he's actually the Kiwi Kid. Meanwhile, things are getting twisted at Otto Octavius's childhood home. Ion Zarur wakes up to a total nightmare. He's tied to a mattress right next to a dummy with a bomb strapped to its chest, all while Doctor Octopus looms over it. Ock launches into a grim monologue about his childhood, describing how his cruel father died slowly in the house, trapping young Otto with a corpse and lots of rage. He finishes the story, clicks the timer on the bomb, and leaves Zarur to sweat. Back at the apartment, Peter is staring out the window, waiting for his fate. He does his best to comfort Mary Jane, who is terrified her husband isn't coming back. But he has to go. He masks up and crawls into the night. And over at Times Square, the tension is suffocating. The kidnapping has already kicked off fighting in the Middle East, and Police Captain Cleland gets a mysterious note, supposedly from Detective Neil Garrett, that sends him into a panic, ordering every cop out of the sewers. Now nearby, Big John Anderson is perched on the telephone pole, filming the scene while Garrett and his Israeli Secret Service are locked, loaded, and waiting for the spark. Finally, the clock strikes 12 and Spider-Man casually strolls into the center of Times Square with billions of eyes watching. Right on cue, Doctor Octopus bursts out of the pavement to bask in his victory, demanding that Spider-Man be prosecuted and exposed as just a man. Obligingly, Spider-Man reaches up and pulls off his mask in front of the world. But instead of a triumph, Doc Ock recoils in total shock, screaming at the sight of Peter's face. It's a massive psychological blow that leaves Ox spiraling and the world wondering what exactly is under that mask. Thor, Volume 2, Issue 73. We open in the halls of New Asgard, where the tension is thick enough to choke on. Thor is surveying the aftermath of a crackdown, and the disappointment is etched across the Allfather's face. Loki, always the serpent, is pushing hard for more reconditioning centers, trying to dress up the magical lobotomies as order. And Magni isn't having it, arguing that these mind scrapings are just the fuel for the rebellion. And Thialfi backs him up. But when Thialfi suggests Asgard should just leave Earth, Magni calls it treason but storms out rather than strike down a friend. We jump to the year of 2020 when Balder is slipping Captain America, Doctor Strange, and Wolverine into the castle under the cover of shadows, while Quicksilver and Warbird sprint towards the reconditioning center to bust out Scarlet Witch. But Loki is 3 steps ahead. Doctor Strange counters by teleporting in heavy hitters, The Thing, Hulk, and Vision, turning the throne into an absolute war zone. Doctor Strange clamps a magic amulet onto Thor that strips away the Odin Force, but even weakened, the Thunder God fights like a storm-given flesh. He wins, but at a cost is absolutely brutal. His left arm is severed, and his eye is gone. And while Thor is bleeding out, Loki slides a blade right into Balder's back. So with only Cap left standing, Thor, now freed from his amulet and drowning in grief, kills him too. And in the quiet that follows, Thialfi finds a girl named Kay and promises her help. He's finally chosen a side. Meanwhile, Magni arrives at Jordal's home, only to find it reduced to ashes. The villagers whisper that he did it, that Magni dragged the family to the centers and then torched the place. And that's when the truth hits him like a hammer. Loki wore his face, committed the atrocity, and let the blame rot at Magni's name. The board is shifted, Thor is maimed, Balder is dead, and Magni finally sees the shape of the monster wearing his uncle's smile. Ultimate X-Men, Volume 1, Issue 41. The morning starts off like a bad dream wearing normal clothes. A teenage boy wakes up in a room plastered with X-Men posters, grabs his backpack and heads downstairs expecting cereal and noise. But the kitchen is dead silent. The fruit bowl is empty, the faucet is running, his mother's clothes are crumpled on the floor like she vanished mid-stride. He calls out and gets nothing back but the hum of the house, and finally leaves a note before stepping into the neighborhood that feels wrong. There's no people, there's no sound, the trees are stripped bare and the grass is dead. A dog collar is lying abandoned in the sidewalk. When he finally spots the crowd across the street, relief washes over him. He thinks he's just imagining things. He walks past them, never seeing the smoke curling off their skin once he's gone. He gets to school and the girl rushes up to him demanding to know why he didn't call last night. He starts to explain, but she falters. Her eyes water, breath hitching, and then smoke pours out of her mouth and eyes as she collapses into a brittle husk. Around them, kids, teachers, plants, everything alive turns to dust within seconds. Her last words, "It's you," hits him harder than the silence that follows. He stands in the corner of a dead world, the only thing left untouched, staring at the horror he doesn't understand. Hours later, we're deep in a cave lit only by a match. Wolverine steps inside, spotting the wrappers, the firewood, and the fear. A voice from the dark tells him to leave or die, but Logan just cracks a beer and sits by the fire. The boy recognizes him instantly, and Wolverine explains his healing factor and the reason he came. Xavier's machine found the source. The boy is a mutant. The kid admits that he already suspects that he killed his parents, his neighbors, and his classmates. Wolverine tries to spare him the number, but the boy insists. 265 lives gone in a single night. Wolverine lays it out as gentle as a man like he can. Puberty hit, the mutation activated, and his body now radiates toxins and corrosive poisons that dissolve anything organic around him. His power is death. The boy breaks, saying he can't live like this, whispering regrets about everything that he'll never be able to do. Wolverine apologizes again and lets him know that no one will ever know the truth. They'll blame a chemical leak to protect mutants everywhere. One chromosome to the left and he might have been an X-Men. Instead, he finishes his beer, asks Logan just to do it, and then sometime later Wolverine walks out of the cave alone, the fire dying behind him. Daredevil, Volume 2, Issue 56. We open in a diner booth where Ben Ulrich looks like he hasn't slept in a week. He's sitting across from a shadow, more a silhouette than a man, and he unloads the burden he's been carrying. It's been exactly 1 year since Matt Murdock stopped protecting Hell's Kitchen and started ruling it like the new Kingpin. Ulrich lays out a timeline that reads like a war journal. After unmasking himself and taking Fisk down, the witnesses either vanished or kept their mouths shut. Within 6 weeks, Daredevil scrubbed the kitchen clean, erasing criminal element with surgical precision. He even weaponized the legal system, crushing the globe in court and funneling the payout right back into the streets until the neighborhood looked reborn. But it isn't all parades and clean streets. We cut to a meeting with Luke Cage, who hits Matt with the hard truth. He tells him he's hoarding strength in one zip code while the rest of the city drowns. Worse, the rumors about mob deals are painting a massive target on Matt's back. That warning turns into a prophecy the second Matt walks Mila Donovan home. His radar spikes like a flare. He forces her to run just as he looks up to find an assassin with a blade and an army of Yakuza waiting to test the so-called king. Matt realizes money and influence doesn't mean anything to the Hand. He sheds the suit, steps into the dark, and brings out the billy clubs, reminding a city why Matt Murdock is the most dangerous man ever to claim a neighborhood. Elektra, Volume 2, Issue 32. Our story opens with a touch of global anxiety as a Zephyr airjet descending in the JFK, carrying a passenger who's far more dangerous than the virulent new flu strain currently dominating the news cycle. After securing a contract on a secure line, our mysterious traveler heads to Barrington Beach, where a generational battle for the soul of the local mob is underway. On the sun-bleached boardwalk, Uri Bezubenkov, fresh out of Harvard Business School and eager to modernize, is pitching his father on the high margins of pirated DVDs, email scams, and digital vice. But his father, Yevgeny, or Papa Bezubenkov, is a man of the old world. He dismisses Uri's prospectuses with a sneer, preferring the tangible power of extortion and the reputation he built by breaking a police officer daughter's knees. Papa demonstrates his management style during a visit to a local brothel, where he brutally harasses a young woman named Amanda to teach Uri a lesson about overhead and dominance. This cruelty follows them home to the Bezubenkov estate. He flies into a murderous rage, ordering the men to drop that cow in the dirt. When the gunfire fails to connect, Papa is less concerned with the intruder than he is with his henchmen's incompetence, shouting that they couldn't hit a woolly mammoth. In a moment of bizarre corporate detachment, Uri completely ignores the hail of bullets to ask if he should still be ordering lunch. High above this domestic dysfunction, our traveler has donned her crimson ninja gi and is scouting the lion's den with binoculars, noting a convenient skylight for entry. But the jet lag she complained about earlier is taking a physical toll. As she attempts to swing through the trees, she misjudges her momentum and slams into the trunk of a tree with a breathless whoof, blaming the travel fatigue for her clumsiness. She attempts to recover her dignity under the cover of night. Scaling the house while guards inside are mesmerized by a reality TV show, her infiltration hits a literal wall when she lands on the roof with a loud thud, instantly alerting the security detail. A firefight ensues, and for a fleeting second, she's the Elektra of legend, taking a guard named Kevin through the shoulder and flipping over a barrage of gunfire. But then the bottom drops out. Her strength vanishes and she cries out before losing her grip and plummeting from the roof. The issue ends with the world's deadliest woman huddled in the bushes, sweating and trembling in terror as she asks the darkness, "What is happening to me?" Exiles, Volume 1, Issue 41. Kitty stands in front of a radiation chamber staring at a glowing skeleton inside, because she's never seen anything quite like Lucy. TJ breaks it down to her. Lucian used to absorb pain and disease to save people, but when he took the legacy virus into himself to save the world, he couldn't expel it. And now he's burning with unstable energy, trapped in a see-through cell that is slowly but surely driving him mad. Before Kitty can even process the horror of it, James Proudstar strolls out of the showers wearing nothing but a towel, and she practically melts on the spot. TJ tries to play it cool, but she's hiding a crush that she's had since long before they ever dated. They head into the kids' quarters and it's absolute chaos. Warlock is looping through the air, Charlie is throwing up force fields, Kiko is firing blasts, and a tiny dragon is chirping in the corner. TJ steps up to restore order, yelling for everyone to quit it, before getting Kitty settled into a room that is somehow both homey and ugly. The reality of the situation finally hits Kitty, and she breaks down crying, begging to go home while TJ holds her until the stomps fade. That night, Logan is reliving his own nightmare, dreaming of the moment he killed Professor Xavier. He wakes up to find Phoenix standing in his room. She's drawn to the emotions that she can no longer feel because she hasn't got a human host, and offers to repair his mind to make him whole again. But Logan refuses, demanding that she gets out. Hurt, she vanishes. The next morning, tensions shift to the danger room. Nocturne is running a session with way too much enthusiasm, flipping through blades and tentacles until Nightcrawler shuts it down. He scolds her for not taking it seriously, and she snaps, telling him she isn't him, and she never will be. He storms out, grabbing Kitty, and leaves the mansion to cool off. Later, Kurt admits to Logan that he's never seen TJ so upset, wondering if he's been too hard on her. Logan gives it to him straight. TJ's been killing herself trying to please him, even wearing his old costume, and Kurt is missing it. But before Nightcrawler can respond, an explosion tears through the mansion wall. Cyclops stands in the smoking hole with his visor blazing, declaring that he's home, and he isn't alone. He brought a brutal squad from the future, including Blob, Hive, and the twisted version of Rogue. The attack has begun. And that draws the curtain on the second part of the March 2004 deep dive. We've witnessed the horrific cost of absolute power with Thor, the heartbreaking reality of mutant powers in the Ultimate Universe, and the sheer psychological weight of Peter Parker's secret identity. These stories are a reminder that this era of Marvel, victory often left scars that never truly healed. We saw Elektra battling her own biology, and we saw the Exiles facing an ambush that threatens to tear the team apart from the inside. But don't close that archive just yet, my fellow fanatics, because we're only halfway through this month. Next time, we're crossing the boundaries of life and death itself, as we'll see the Fantastic Four embark on a desperate mission to storm the gates of heaven. Literally, to save Ben Grimm. We'll also witness Thanos and Galactus facing a threat that can consume the entire universe. And we'll see the Runaways face off against a vampire in a finale you have to see to believe. Make sure you finesse that follow button to feed the fire, form a fellowship on the forums to focus on the feedback, forward that footage to your friends so they can finally find that frequency, and flick that bell to fix your focus on the future. These are the apps we'll be focusing on next week. Same ordered time, same ordered omnibus.